Get out of my sight right now. The moment my father-in-law said those words, I wanted to say something back, but my throat tightened, and no words came out. I had lived in this house for 3 years. I'd been trying to become part of the family, but the people in front of me never saw me as family from the beginning. I quietly packed my things. I stuffed the bare essentials into a suitcase, made sure I had my wallet and phone with me, and placed my work documents and valuables into a bag. Finally, I glanced around the room one last time. That was enough. Without saying anything, I walked toward the front door. Honestly, it's a relief, said my father-in-law with a shrug. My mother-in-law added with a chuckle, now we don't have to pretend anymore. Do whatever you want. The last voice I heard was my wife, Sarah, sounding as if she had no regrets. I silently put on my shoes and opened the front door. The cold night breeze brushed against my cheek. See ya. Leaving those words behind, I walked out without looking back. The next day, Sarah would call me in a panic, the event I didn't expect at the moment. My name is Mike Turner. I'm 40 years old. I've lived my whole life without knowing what family really is. By the time I was old enough to remember, my parents were already gone. A few hours after I was born in the hospital, my mother passed away. As for my father, he was never in the picture. I didn't even know who he was or if he even knew about my mother's pregnancy. From the moment I was born, I was destined to live a life without family. With no relatives to take me in, I grew up in a foster care home. The director, Tom Barley, and the staff treated me well. But no matter how kind they weren't family. Every child there had their own story, abandoned by parents, suffered abuse, or left behind due to poverty. I was just one of many with a story of my own. You all will grow up to build your own families someday. The director used to say that, but I didn't understand what it meant. What is a family? How is it formed? I had no clue. While most kids left the facility at 18, I was allowed to stay until 20 because I got into college. I paid for tuition with student loans. Balancing study and work, I graduated and got a job at a major company. The work was grueling, but I didn't mind. While repaying my student loans, I managed to send small donations to the facility. To me, it was the only place that felt like home. Marriage was something I had never considered. How could someone like me, who knew nothing about family, build a warm home? But one day, the director encouraged me to attend a party. Why not meet someone new? You never know, there might be someone out there who understands your journey. Reluctantly, I joined the matchmaking event out of respect for my mentor. That's where I met Sarah, who would later become my wife. 3 years older than me, she had a calm demeanor and was easy to talk to. As we spoke more, I felt a sense of comfort. She also said she didn't have any dream in marriage. I told her I didn't want kids, and if she was okay with that. That was the condition under which we started dating. 3 years ago, I married into her family and moved into her house. Maybe, just maybe, I could become family without a biological connection. That faint hope was what I clung to. But it turned out, I was naive. Looking forward to having you here, Josh. On moving day, my father-in-law, Greg, patted my shoulder with a grin. My mother-in-law, Maggie, gave me a kind smile and said, "It's nice to have another helping hand around here." After marrying Sarah, I started living with her parents. I'd be lying if I said I was nervous, but there was also a part of me that was hopeful. For someone like me, who had never had family, this was supposed to be a fresh start. That illusion shattered pretty quickly. Josh, could you clean the bathroom? At first, it seemed like small, harmless requests. My mother-in-law would chuckle, "You're such a hard worker," and my father-in-law would say, "You're a big help." I was happy to contribute as part of the family, but the requests started piling up. I was the one making breakfast, cleaning up afterward, taking out the trash, and doing the shopping. Folding my father-in-law's laundry and wiping up spills my mother-in-law made, those became my jobs, too. Yet no one seemed to think there was anything odd about it. Man, having an extra pair of hands is really helpful. It's like we finally have a son in the house. My father-in-law laughed cheerfully, and my mother-in-law nodded in agreement. I smiled vaguely, but something felt off. That night, I finally worked up the courage to talk to Sarah. "Hey, don't you think I've kinda turned into a housekeeper lately?" But Sarah just laughed it off. "Of course not. Dad and Mom are just happy to feel like they have a son now." "Really? You're overthinking it. We're family. Helping each other out is normal, right?" Helping each other out? I tried to convince myself Sarah was right. I didn't grow up with a family, so I had no idea what a normal family dynamic was. Maybe this really was normal? But was it really family if I was the only one doing the chores? A vague sense of unease slowly began to take hold. I quit my job. One evening, Sarah said this out of nowhere. "What?" I looked up in surprise. She was sitting on the couch, casually scrolling through her phone, and gave a little shrug. "My job. I quit it today." "Wait, you didn't tell me anything about this." "Well, I decided just today." Her carefree tone left me speechless. Why so sudden? I've always dreamed of being a housewife. The moment she said that, a terrible feeling washed over me. Seeing my furrowed brow, Sarah raised her voice cheerfully. "Oh, come on, don't make such a big deal out of it. It's not like I need to work, we can live just fine on your earnings, right?" Sure, my income alone could probably sustain us. Even though I had some feelings about not being consulted beforehand, I didn't want to start a fight so early moment in our married life. For now, I decided to respect Sarah's choice. "All right, but being a housewife means you'll take care of the house, right?" "Of course." Sarah smiled brightly, but I quickly realized that was a lie. The next day, she started living like it was summer vacation for a college student. She slept in late every morning. On weekends, I'd see her wake up around noon, lounge around scrolling on her phone, and then head out in the afternoon for lunch or shopping with friends. It was likely she spent her weekdays in a similar fashion. She barely did any housework. At first, I let it slide, but as 1 week, then 2 weeks passed, it became clear she wasn't going to change. Finally, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Hey, Sarah, can you do a little more around the house?" But she, lying on the couch without looking up from her phone, replied, "Why, I'm a housewife, aren't I?" "That's exactly why you should be doing the housework, isn't it?" "What? Isn't being a housewife about living freely?" I sighed in frustration but kept calm. "No, it's not. I work outside, so it's only fair you handle things at home, right?" "Excuse me, are you saying I'm some kind of maid now?" "That's not what I mean. I quit my job because I didn't want to work." Her selfish reasoning left me speechless. "Wait, that's not what we agreed on." "Shut up. If you've got complaints, earn more first." With that, Sarah turned away in a huff. It was impossible to have a proper conversation with her. I tried talking to my in-laws, but their response was unexpected. Now, men shouldn't nitpick about little things. Exactly, Mike. Being a housewife isn't easy, you know. But besides, our daughter has always enjoyed living freely. We thought you'd accept her as she is, which is why we let you marry into the family. That was basically the same as saying, don't complain. Back in my room, I let out a small sigh. I thought family was supposed to help each other. But this family seemed different. Here, it was expected that I'd always be the one helping, and no one ever helped me in return. Is this really what family is supposed to be? The question lingered in my mind. 3 years had passed since our marriage. By the time I realized it, I wasn't a family member in this house. I was just a servant. I woke up earlier than anyone else, making breakfast and cleaning the house before my in-laws came downstairs. Driving my wife and mother-in-law wherever they needed to go had also become my responsibility. Then one day, something unbelievable happened. As usual, I finished preparing dinner and was about to sit at the table, the last one to sit, as always, when my father-in-law furrowed his brows and said, "What do you think you're doing?" "Hey, what are you doing?" "I'm sitting down for dinner." "There's no plate for you," my mother-in-law said coldly. "What?" "Well, you work, don't you? Just grab whatever you want to eat on your way home." "But I'm part of this family too." "Stop being so persistent. You're a man. Take care of yourself." I was at a loss for words. In that moment, I realized my role in this household was solely to serve them. I didn't even have the right to share a meal with them. Not long after, I was even banned from using the bathroom. "You make the bath dirty when you use it," my father-in-law said. My mother-in-law laughed and added, "It's better to just go to a public bath, isn't it?" When I was told not to use the toilet either, I no longer had the energy to be angry. I had no choice but to use the restroom at nearby grocery stores or convenience stores and stop by a public bath after work. At the office, my coworkers asked, "Is something wrong at home?" I lied, saying, "Our house is being remodeled." Then, one day, something happened that changed everything. My bank book is missing, my wallet too. My mother-in-law's scream echoed through the house. I stopped cleaning and rushed to the living room, where chaos was unfolding. My mother-in-law was panicking, and Sarah and my father-in-law were frantically searching the house. "Where did you put it?" I asked. My mother-in-law, on the verge of tears, cried, "I know I left it right here, but it's gone." I suddenly remembered something and headed to the entryway. That morning, my mother-in-law had gone to the bank. Sure enough, her handbag was carelessly left there. I peeked inside and found both the bank book and wallet untouched. "Here, I found them," I said, holding up the items and handing them to her. But the moment my mother-in-law snatched the wallet, her face turned pale. "The money in the wallet, it's missing." "What?" "There were $500 in here this morning. Now there's only $3." Shaking, she clutched the wallet and glared at me. "It couldn't be you, could it?" "What are you saying?" I asked, shocked. "Well, you're the only one who's touched this wallet." "Don't be ridiculous." I tried to deny it, but my father-in-law's deep voice cut me off. "Mike, I'm disappointed in you. Return the stolen money now." I was stunned and looked to Sarah for help. Her response broke me. My mom wouldn't lie. In that instant, something inside me shattered. That's why I didn't want someone raised in a facility as a husband. "Get out of my sight right now." My throat tightened, and no words came out. I had lived in this house for 3 years. I thought I'd been trying to become part of the family. but the people in front of me had never considered me family from the start. Quietly, I began to pack my things. I stuffed the bare essentials into a suitcase, checked if I had my wallet and phone with me, and packed work-related documents and valuables into a bag. Finally, I glanced around the room one last time. 3 years ago, when I came to this house, I had hoped to understand what family meant. I thought maybe, just maybe, even without a biological connection, we could become a real family if I tried hard. I once held on to that faint hope. But reality turned out to be very different. Far from being treated as family in this house, I had become less than a servant. I wasn't allowed to eat with them, use the bathroom, or even the toilet. And finally, I was falsely accused of being a thief. That was it. I silently made my way to the front door. "So, you're really leaving?" My father-in-law's expression clouded ever so slightly. Was he about to stop me? I was a fool for even entertaining that hope. "Well, honestly, it's a relief," he said with a shrug. My mother-in-law added with a laugh, "Now we don't have to tiptoe around anymore. Do whatever you want." The last thing I heard was Sarah's voice, completely devoid of regret. I quietly put on my shoes and opened the front door. The cold night wind brushed against my cheek. "See ya." Leaving those words behind, I walked out without looking back. The next day, around midday, my phone started ringing. The name Sarah flashed on the screen. I ignored it, but the calls kept coming relentlessly. When I saw the call log had reached 100 missed calls, I reluctantly answered. "What the hell is this?" Sarah yelled the moment I picked up. "What are you talking about? My card isn't working." Now it made sense. "Oh, that credit card you've been using, it's in my name." "So what?" "I canceled it yesterday." "What?" There was a moment of silence before I heard what sounded like something being thrown on her end of the call. "Are you kidding me? We're at a restaurant right now. We, Dad, Mom, and I are at a fancy French place." I nodded to myself in understanding. Even after I left, they wasted no time enjoying a lavish dinner, as if nothing had changed. "So, what do you expect me to do? Isn't it obvious? Get over here with money right now." "No." "What?" I took a deep breath. "You're no longer family to me." "What the hell are you talking about? You're the one who walked out. You're the ones who kicked me out. Sorry, but don't ever rely on me again." "Wait, you can't do this." I hung up before she could finish. For the first time in a long while, I felt an odd sense of freedom. But at that moment, I had no idea what was coming. A few days later, my in-laws and Sarah would show up in front of me once again. The place I went after leaving my in-laws' house was the foster care home where I grew up. The facility I hadn't visited in years still had the same familiar atmosphere. The director welcomed me warmly. "Never thought I'd see you back here." He chuckled softly and even prepared a meal for me. "Sorry, it's a pretty pathetic story." "There's nothing pathetic about it. When you're in trouble, it's okay to lean on others. That's what family is all about." Family? That was what I had desperately sought at my in-laws' house. But all I found there was control and exploitation. Now, sitting at the table with the director, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. But that peace didn't last long. That afternoon, a car pulled up in front of the facility gates. "Hey, Mike, I know you're in there. Get out here." My father-in-law's booming voice echoed through the air. Of course, they came. With a sigh, I headed to the entrance. Sure enough, there stood my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and Sarah. The moment my father-in-law saw me, his face turned red with anger. "Hey, the contractor said the remodeling work's been cancelled. What the hell is going on?" "So that's what this is about," I replied calmly. "I'm the one who cancelled it." "What? Who gave you the right?" "It's my contract. I can do whatever I want with it." At that, his shouting stopped. "What are you saying?" "I'm the one who signed the remodeling contract. You forced me into it, remember?" My father-in-law's face twitched. The truth was, my in-law's house was undergoing major renovations, and I was the one who had signed the contract. They had pressured me, saying, as the son-in-law, "It's your responsibility to pay for this," and I had reluctantly signed. "Don't be ridiculous. It's our house being remodeled, and I'm no longer part of our house." "What did you just say?" "I have no reason to continue this contract. Don't worry, I've already paid the cancellation fees and penalties myself." Now my mother-in-law stepped forward, her face pale. "That can't be. You're lying. The work was already underway. How could you?" "I had the right to cancel. That's all there is to it." No. We were going to install a jacuzzi in the bathroom." Sarah muttered bitterly. "You're the worst." My father-in-law spat, barely above a whisper. "And who's really the worst here?" I shot back. "You forced me to pay for the house, didn't even give me meals, and wouldn't let me use the bathroom or toilet. Isn't that on you?" "Well, that's..." my father-in-law faltered. "You never thought of me as family. You just saw me as a convenient source of money." My mother-in-law looked at me with pleading eyes. "Mike, please, talk to the contractors again. We can leave the renovations half done. She's right, the house is a mess like this. I don't need you relying on me anymore. We're done. I have nothing to do with you all." "Wait a second." Sarah reached out to grab my arm, but I brushed her hand away. She stared at her right hand, stunned, as if unable to believe what had just happened. The reality of being rejected by me was something she couldn't seem to process. I looked at her, calm but resolute. "Sarah, in divorcing you." "You've got to be joking." Sarah glared at me, her voice sharp. My in-laws stood frozen, unable to comprehend my declaration. Ignoring their reactions, I spoke coldly. "I'm serious. It's over." "What? I don't get what you're saying." "And I'll be filing for alimony." "What?" This time, my father-in-law raised his voice. "What the hell are you talking about? You're the one who stole our money." "Exactly. A thief demanding alimony. We should be the ones suing you." "Sue me? Why would I steal your money?" My confident tone made Sarah stamp her foot in frustration. "What's with that attitude? Just because we're family does it mean you can take money from the wallet?" "Oh, how noisy." A low, composed voice suddenly interrupted her rant. "Mr. Barley." It seemed a commotion had drawn him outside. "You all need to stop this nonsense." Tom slowly approached Sarah and her parents. "I am Tom Barley, the director of this facility," he said calmly. "So what?" "Well, listen carefully." Tom's sharp gaze silenced Sarah. "Mike isn't just some ordinary office worker." "What are you saying?" Father-in-law furrowed his brow suspiciously. "Mike owns and runs a company in the education sector. He has made substantial donations to child welfare facilities nationwide, supporting children in their education and job placements." Suddenly, their faces went pale. "What? This can't be. I didn't know." "That's why he had no reason to steal from you." As Tom finished speaking, Sarah's voice trembled. Wait, are you saying you're running a company? That can't be true. It's true. I knew you all saw me as nothing more than a convenient wallet. If you knew I was a business owner, you'd have leeched off me even more. So, I decided to live as if I were just another office worker. No, this can't be happening, Sarah's mother muttered in disbelief. For 3 years, I've been exploited by you all, but that ends now. Wait, let's start over. If you have money, we can. Don't make me laugh. There's not even a shred of a chance I'll start over with you. Please, Mike, I'm begging you. Sarah clung to me desperately, followed by her mother. What are we supposed to do now? What about the remodeling? I don't care. Clean up your own mess. My father-in-law gritted his teeth and glared at me. You, treating us like this, they'll never forgive you. I've done nothing to deserve your hatred. This is the result of your own actions. Now, leave. People like you don't deserve to take up any more of Mike's time. My in-laws and Sarah stood frozen for a moment, glaring at me with hatred before finally stepping toward the door. You'll regret this, I swear it. My father-in-law muttered before they left. I exhaled deeply, and the director gave me a warm smile. Well, now you're finally free. I nodded quietly, knowing that, at last, I was truly free from the chains of that so-called family. A few days later, my phone rang again. The name Sari appeared on the screen. I considered ignoring it, but the persistent ringing forced me to sigh and press the answer button. What do you want? Mike, please, listen to me. Her voice, trembling and no longer overbearing, was unlike her usual tone. My mom, she has dementia. She's been diagnosed. Yes, we took her to the hospital for tests. They said it's Alzheimer's. I wasn't surprised. I had suspected as much for a while. Her forgetfulness, the repetitive questions, sudden emotional outbursts, it all made sense now. The incident with the missing money was likely a symptom of her condition. I told you, didn't I? I told you to take her to the hospital, over and over again, but none of you listened. We never thought it was something serious. You missed it. That's on you. Sarah fell silent. Through the phone, I could hear her soft sobbing. I'm sorry. Even as I heard her apology, I felt no emotion in my chest. An apology won't change anything. You called me a thief and threw me out of the house. Do you really think a simple sorry will fix that? I really regret it, that's why. Please, come back. Come back. I let out a bitter laugh. Even now, Sarah was only thinking of her own convenience. Yes, Mom will need care soon, and Dad, he's so depressed right now. And I need to find a job, but it's been so hard. And what does any of that have to do with me? I could hear her breath hitch. I sighed, my tone turning cold. I've already sent the divorce papers, in proceeding with the alimony claim through my lawyer. What? Whatever happens to you all, it has nothing to do with me. From now on, handle things on your own. Wait, that's impossible. Please, Mike, we're family, aren't we? The moment those words reached my ears, something inside me snapped. Family, sure, I tried to be part of your family, but you all saw me as a mere wallet, didn't you? That's not true. Then let me ask you this, did you ever do anything for me as family? Sarah stammered, unable to form a response. That silence was the answer. All I was to you was someone to exploit. I wasn't allowed to use the bathroom, the toilet, or even share a meal at the table. Is that what you call family? Sarah had nothing left to say. I took a deep breath and delivered my final words. From now on, contact me through my lawyer. Wait. Ignoring Sarah's anguished scream, I ended the call. I placed the phone on my desk and closed my eyes. It was truly over. Later, the divorce was finalized. Thanks to my meticulous record keeping, I was able to prove the malicious harassment by my in-laws, and my claim for alimony was fully upheld. Though Sarah and my father-in-law looked bitter, this outcome was only fair. As for the remodeling, it was initially halted, but my father-in-law eventually had to recontract it under his own name. The costs were exorbitant. With the added burden of alimony payments and the extra remodeling expenses, their household finances collapsed almost immediately. To make matters worse, Sarah's mother's dementia progressed rapidly. What was once an early-stage condition now interfered with daily life, requiring constant care. Family is all about helping each other, right? Those were the words Sarah once used to push everything onto me. Now, she spends every day juggling part-time jobs alongside her father-in-law while taking care of her mother. I've heard that my father-in-law has grown utterly exhausted, his face void of life. Perhaps they've finally realized the truth. Family isn't about using someone, it's about supporting one another. But it's too late. Meanwhile, I threw myself into my work more than ever before. As a result, my company grew steadily. The educational support programs I developed expanded nationwide. Though I earned more than enough, I had no intention of living a fancy life. I donated all surplus income to child welfare facilities across the country, continuing to support the education, career opportunities, and futures of the children there. I wanted to make the path I once struggled to walk a little easier for them. Whenever I found a moment between work, I visited the director regularly. "You've truly become someone remarkable. I'm proud of you," Tom said, patting my shoulder. "Thank you. But you know, it's okay to lean on someone every now and then." I chuckled softly and replied, "You're right. This place is my home. Even without a genetic connection, I have people who are my real family. And now, I can finally accept that,